today we have YB Daniel Gooi, the State Assemblyman from Pengkalan Kota, Penang. And he is the youngest YB in Penang. Now today our topic is on youth. And often we are told that youth is the next generation and they are the future leaders of our country. And we talk about youth being leader and talk about politics, and usually politics is being perceived as dirty, complicated, and especially now, it's quite dramatic. And so we have YB Daniel here to share his view and his own personal journey as a young politician. So yes, Daniel, thank you very much for joining this session. Now, you are the youngest YB in Penang, elected when you were only 31 years old. So was it your childhood ambition to be a state leader? And if not, what was it?
First and foremost, thank you, Joshua, for having me in this Zoom meeting session to talk about especially youth as a leader, especially in the state of Penang, as well as throughout the country entirely. Just some minor correction. Actually, I was first elected when I was age 30, because the election in 2018 was held in May. So my birthday is on June, so to be exact, I was elected on when I'm 30 years old. So just a month later, I turned 31. But all in all, it was a very good experience. To myself, I did not imagine that one day I would become one of the state legislative assembly person, to be honest. Growing up in the suburban of Bukit Mentajam, where I spent most of my childhood at, like any other youth or youngster here in Penang, I think we of course we have our dreams in getting ourselves involved in different industry, but to be honest, becoming a political leader or a state leader wasn't really my childhood ambition. So I would rather say perhaps my childhood ambition were to become a teacher perhaps, but unfortunately it did not turn out in that way. So here I am now becoming one of the youngest elected rep here in Penang. But to be honest, I am not the record holder, to be honest. I was elected when I was 30. In fact, if you talk about young leaders who are from DAP, the party of DAP itself, if I'm not mistaken, the record holder would be my predecessor, which is the former state assemblyman for Pengkalan Kota, Saudara Lau Keng Yi. He was first elected when he was 28 at this very similar, at this particular state constituency. But if you talk about for the entire state across the board, I believe the youngest elected rep would definitely be YB Dr. Afif Bahardin when he was first elected as the assemblyman for Seberang Jaya in year 2013. That time, if I'm not mistaken, he was only 26 years old. So I might not be the record holder, but still, I believe I'm one of the youngest leaders here in Penang.
So what led you to want to be an elected representative?
I think for myself, in my particular case, one of my family member, which is my close family member, my uncle to be precise, is actually Saudara Gooi, who have been in the party for a very long time. He's a former political secretary to Saudara Lim Kit Siang, and I guess I'm quite influenced by him. At a very young age, I knew about elections, what general elections is all about. I can still fondly remember back then in 1995 when Saudara Gooi stood as the DAP candidate for the Berapit State Constituency. Back then, I'm still staying in BM. So basically, my house act as the election center for Saudara Gooi. So that is when I guess it is first, I'm first being exposed to what is the general elections, what politics is all about, what general elections is all about. So that inspires me. I can still remember during back then in 1995, I'm only in standard 2. I have this Robocop sticker. I think back then there was a campaign by the Penang State, whereby back then there was a famous Robocop sticker used So I remember fondly that I have all these stickers at the back of my textbook. That is when I start to get exposed. And afterwards, during my time of growing up, of course, you will see a lot of social injustice in this society, in our country. So I think that inspires me to decide that I wanted to join politics as soon as I complete my tertiary education. So back then, I think it touches me the most back in 2008 when the then Pakatan Rakyat government managed to form the Penang State government. I think that inspires me the most. That time, I'm still, I think, in the first year of my university studies. So that inspires me to decide that I wanted to join politics as soon as I finish my tertiary studies.
Okay. And as a young politician, what are the toughest challenges that you face?
I think in my case in particular, uh, for your information, the seat constituency seat of Pengkalan Kota, uh, more than half of the voters here are actually aged 60 and above. This is a very old, you can say a very old constituency, whereby it is situated in the heart of Georgetown. So people I deal with daily, most of them are senior citizens. So often there were times that when we have engagement, especially with the voters who are staying in the old township of Georgetown itself, there are remarks saying that YB, I was born here. I mean, I have been here even before you were born. I've been staying here, I mean, for the rest of my life, even before you were born. Not to say that until you were elected, but when I was, I mean, staying in this constituency, you were not even born yet. So how possible would you know better than me in terms of when we're talking about having a solution to some of the municipal issues here in the constituency? Often I will get that type of remark. But I believe that as a young politician, as a young state leader, we need to work really hard. I mean, compared to my other comrades who have been experienced or at a older age compared to myself, I think as a youth, we need to work double or perhaps triple the hard work in order for us to convince the people that as a young leader, we are not exactly that naive. We can serve equally well compared to all those experienced politicians. And perhaps with the factor that we are young, we often will be able to provide a new insight or a new way to look into things differently. Perhaps in providing a solution, or perhaps in providing the actual change in order to make our society a better place to live in. I think as a younger generation, often we have new exposure, we have new experience that enable us to deal on things that perhaps politicians from an older generation might not be looking at. So I think that at the same time might be a disadvantage to us, but at the same time, it will be a very strong advantage to us as well.
Sounds like you are coping it very well.
Well, I can say so far so good thanks to the support of the people who have given us a very good chance and opportunity for us to experiment different things, new things, in order to make the society a better place to live in.
Okay, now YB Daniel, the political scene is quite dramatic, and some people are skeptical over politics and frustrated with what's happening. Now, what message do you have for our young people?
I think there are a lot of factors, especially the recent political turmoil that our country is facing, has somehow discouraged, especially younger generations, to be involved, to get yourself involved in politics. And in fact, there is a stigma towards the younger generation that politics is always dirty. Politics has nothing to do with my life. So perhaps politics is just a game for the some of the older generation, and that we should not get ourselves involved in. But I think my message to the youths and the younger generation today is that politics is about everything about our life. I mean, if you are not getting yourself involved, if you are not actively participating in politics, I think in the end of the day, you might just give up your life, or you might just give up your political choice to let other people to dictate how you should behave or how you should live in this society. I feel that politics is something that shouldn't be limited by certain age. I mean, everyone has the civil right to participate in politics in order to make our society a more democratic society, and in order for us to get everyone, regardless of race, religion, gender, or age group, to take part actively in order for us to shape our society that we would like to see one day, not just for ourselves, but for our future generation. So I think it is quite important for our younger generation to realize that if you do not make a choice, or if you do not participate at the politics today, in future you might not have the chance, or you might not have the opportunity to be involved in this politics, and the outcome of the society future might be due to your reluctance to participate in politics today. So I do strongly urge that young people do take up time in order, if you don't want to get yourself actively participating in politics, the very least is that you should be concerned. I mean, do more readings in particular about politics scenario in the country to understand how the government works, how legislative assembly works, how is the process of the legislation is being done in this country, and especially everything in your life is pretty much related to politics, come to think of it. So my message to the younger generation is that do try to keep up, and do try your best to participate in this political and also the democracy procedure of the country.
Oh, thank you so much for this advice. Very encouraging, and we hope that more young people, yeah, will be inspired by what you are doing at Pengkalan Kota, and also continue to pursue their own political participation to make our country a better place. So thank you very much again for this session, and I'll see you again.
No problem, Joshua. Have a nice day. So thank you for the interview, and I do hope that this strong message will be able to let our youth, I mean, our future generation, to understand that it's actually pretty much your life is related to politics. So it will be good if you are able to take part of it now, and to shape the future that you truly want, and to take part. I mean, for politics, especially here in Pakatan Harapan, we do appreciate youths, and in fact, as an evidence, you can see a lot of youths and young leaders are being fielded as candidates and eventually become the elected representative for parties under Pakatan Harapan. We have the youngest minister, we have the youngest MPs ever put in place in the last general election. So I think this would be a very good opportunity for our younger generation to finally decided to take part in the politics. So once again, thank you very much for this session.